Hi, welcome to Strum with Steve Part 3. I've done Cousin Jack and I've done finger picking, and now I'm going to look at the Mandocello. Thanks again for your generosity. This morning I had to message someone because I thought they'd put the decimal point in the wrong place, and they said no, they thought they'd pay in advance or just contribute for 10 lessons, and I'm going to be doing loads, it looks like, over the next few weeks and days, so keep tuning in. Today I'm looking at the Mandocello. Now, I know that some people call these bazookies or citerns or whatever, but I call it the Mandocello or the Cello Mandolin. Technically, it's more of an octave violin because it's an octave, the standard tuning is an octave below a violin, G, D, A, E. So we'll talk about the tuning in a bit. So this particular instrument is based upon one that my friend Paul Downes' brother, Warwick Downes, acquired in the 70s when he had a music shop in Brighton. And Paul started playing it with the traditional G, D, A, E tuning, and I fell in love with it as well. David Oddie subsequently made a whole generation of these instruments that I think loads, maybe 200 or 300 people have bought over the last 30 or so years. And his son Nick is still making them, and I shall put the link to Nick's workshop below this video. Some things about the instrument itself. I'm tuning it G, D, A, D. Now, if I was a tunes player, probably I would want to tune it G, D, A, E, because then you can play all of the tunes as written for fiddle or mandolin. But I tune it G, D, A, D, and I use it really as a chunky guitar chord accompaniment. Now, a bit more about the instrument. These bottom strings, this G, is a light gauge E string tuned up from E, F to G. The D string, which I call the third string, counting down again, 1, 2, 3. The D string is a light gauge D, possibly, what are we talking about, 32, something like that. The bottom one is a 52, a 32. Now this A string is a plain string. Some people use like a wound G or a wound G tuned up to A. This is a plain B, but quite a thick one. This is an 18 or a 19, but I prefer the plain sound. It makes tuning a bit harder sometimes, but I think it gives the instrument a bit more sparkle. So that, I think, is an 18 or a 19. Or if you could get hold of a plain G string and tune it up from A to G, this is a B tuned down to A. And finally, I've got a medium gauge E string. I think this is about a 14, and that's E tuned down. So G, D, A, D. The other thing I'm using is a medium gauge, I think it's a 70mm pick. I'm not really playing little individual lines, occasionally, and lads in their hundreds. Occasionally I'm picking out little phrases, but mainly I'm using it as a chord instrument. So that's the first thing about the structure of the instrument. It's about guitar string length. Now you will need a pen and paper for this tutorial because I'm going to be giving you some chord shapes to learn. And again, I'm using my basic method, which is to count down from the lighter string. In other words, you count up but count down. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2 would be first string, second fret. 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2. So for example, 4, 4, 3, 4. 2, 4. So before I start playing some chords, I'll just show you the sort of phrases we're looking at. That's some phrases in D and B minor, but it has a lovely G minor. So that's some G minor phrases. So that's the sort of chords. So let's start with the most common one. I've written so many songs using this basic shape, and that is a D. So if you've got G, D, A, D, it stands to reason. If you take that 4th string and go up to the 7th fret, then you've got 4 Ds in a row. And then 2 A's, and then 2 more Ds. So there's a lot of Ds. So that's a good modal Now, I'm not a music reader or writer or technically very proficient in the information side, but I call this a D modal chord because it doesn't have the third note, which defines it as either minor or major. So I use a lot of... It sounds a bit more ancient and rich, and I don't know, I like those big chunky deep chords. So that's my basic resting D. Here's another shape for D, but this is playing the third note, which makes it a major. And I'm moving that just up to below the octave, can you see there? So that will be 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 to the 11th fret. That's the start of Man of War. The worth of an acre of land, say when the wind would blow. So there you go, there's another D. D modal, that makes it D major. So by definition, if I went, that makes it a D minor. So for something like Bristol Slaver, from my house in Clifton. So there's another shape for a D by taking this down to 4-2. So now you're rooting it with the G, A, F sharp. Not such an attractive chord, I don't think. Sorry, you're rooting it with an A. But sometimes if you wanted to play like... So there's a D. Now let's think of some chords that we can put around that D. Now the obvious one would be an A, wouldn't it be? So if you go to 42 and 32... Now at the moment I'm keeping the top two strings open. So there's a D down to an A. And if you want to be clever, you could put your little finger on 22, and there's a real big modal A. Let me just tune. It's one of the problems of the plain B string. Tuning is slightly harder. So there's your A. Here's another nice shape for an A, and this is very much an A major. So this is 46, 37, and 27. So there's an A down there in the first position. There's an A down there. If you notice, I'm keeping that D droning away, which is, I think, is quite attractive. So there's one shape for an A, two shapes for an A, and here's a third one. I'm very fond of that one. Now that is, I've got to count up again, 4, 10. 7, 8, 9, there. Sorry, 4, 9. 4, 9. 4th string, 9th fret. And that's the 3rd string, 11th fret. I love that chord. You notice the way you can move these shapes around and the top two strings still sound in sympathy with them? So here's your A's again. 1st position, 2nd position, 3rd position. Remember your D's? And finally, what finishes off or anything to do with D is a plethora of G choices. Now the obvious one would just be 2-2. That's obviously a G major because you've got the major third there. So logically, if I took that down, there's the minor third, but listen to that lovely G major. I use that one a lot. And you can move that up from 2-2 to 2-5. That's a bit more sort of modal and open. And if you want, you could put your little finger on 1-5. If you want to be even cleverer, put another finger on 3-5. That's a big chunky chord. Oh madam, I will give you the keys of Canterbury. So there's 1 and 3 or 4 G's around there, And here's a lovely G, I use this a lot, and that is 4/4. So I'm rooting it with the major third of G. And then I've got 4/4, I've got 3/5 and 2/5. So you can do, there's a C I put in there, I haven't shown you that one yet. So there's your G, one G, there's all those G's around there with those strings, and then you've got rooting it with the 4th string on the 4th fret. So it's almost like a piano, you're just moving the bass note along. Sometimes I leave the A and the B, sorry, the A and the D open. So that's 4/4, 3/5. That sounds nice in this room. And here's another favourite G of mine, and that's up here. So that is 3rd string, 9th fret, 3/9 and 2/10. And you can have that little suspension. That's the chord I play at the beginning of Loss. So that's really a little shape you can move around. So that's another G shape. So here are your G's again. The basic one, adding some notes around that, or even, here's the one rooting it down here, and here's the other one. So just to recap, D, 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 A, and G, and all these other G's. Okay, so that's notes, chords associated with the sort of the D and the G chord. And here is the real killer, B minor. That's just gorgeous. Now to make a complete B minor, I've got a 4/4, a 3/4, and a 2/2. 4/4, 3/4, 2/2. And if I go to the G, remember that G, listen to the way it goes. And there's the A. What I quite like to do is to keep that 2nd string there, so it goes. And here's an A. It's all based around that 4/4 and 3/4. It's really nice to leave it open as well. And my favourite of all, 4/4, 3/4 and 2/4. Listen to this. And if I take the strings off apart from the 2nd string, and if you can put those two on to make an A, remember this? Summer riff. That's quite tricky. Nobody on the road. Normally I do it on the tenor guitar. So there's some lovely shapes around D and B minor. This is a good little phrase. Go from D to B minor. Go from that one up there, that D. Things like Santiago. Now, did you notice that I'm putting my thumb across there to the 7th fret? You may not have a long enough thumb, or you may have a long, wide neck on the instrument. And what about this on the... Love-struck Romeo, B minor, sung the streets a serenade. A, laying everybody low with a love song that finds the street light, steps out of the shades of summer light. You and me, babe, how about it? Just lovely, isn't it? But that's using all those D and B's and E minors. I haven't mentioned E minor. That's not an easy chord. Let's look at some minors apart from B minor. Here's a nice A minor. Oh, it's tuning again. Remember I said about those B strings? A wound one holds its tuning better, but it doesn't sparkle as much. Here's your A. If you want to make that into a minor, you go to 23. I'm going to play an A minor F G run. Okay, so there's your A minor. If you want to just play 4-2 and 3-2, you don't need to put that one in because it's modal enough. Now here's an F. Now F is slightly difficult because you can't root it with a strong F note. Let me just tune again. So I'm playing I'm rooting it with an A, which is not always the most attractive note to root an F with. It's 4-2, 3-3 and 2-3. Do you remember that G I showed you earlier? Just moving that down. So you could play it like that, because that A is in the F chord. So I'll play an A minor, or what sounds like an A minor, although it hasn't got the third on it, an A minor F to G. Remember I'm playing that G there? So okay, that's like a A minor, F, G. Shelter and shade was the oak tree grown for church and cradle, hearth and home. Arms so strong they hold the sky. So there's no major minor third, but it sounds minor. Cut the branch and the heart will die. The limbs, the veins, the head and the heart. F. The earth, the roots, the leaves and the bark. Okay, so we've had a lot of chords around D, we've had a lot of chords around G. I haven't shown you a C yet. This is a C. Not very nice. I prefer to play a C like this, which is a 3-5. Sorry, a 4-5, a 3-5 and a 2-3. I don't do a lot of songs on the cello mandolin that start with C, because as I said, it's not an easy one to root. If you went to C to F, back to G to C again. Or you could put your little finger on 1-5. So there's a C, an F, a G and a C. So there's a C for you. Again, just to recap, 4-5, 3-5 and 2-3. Okay, so there's your C, you've had your F, you've had your Gs, you've had your B minors, you've had your D. E minor, quite a tough one. Because there's no, obviously if this is a G note, you don't really find an E on it till you get way up there, G up to A. So it's way up, it's sort of, it's almost on the, it's on the 9th fret. So it's not very rich. You can root an E minor with a G, but it almost becomes a G too much. So occasionally I use that as an E minor, but it's not. It's a hard one. So the beginning of Lost, which is G to E minor. Yeah. So you can suggest an E minor, but that's when Phil will normally go to a big bottom E on the guitar just to give it some sort of structure. So there's your E minor. Now, the last great wonder of the Mandocello is, as I said, G minor, and particularly B flat. Never meant to cause you any trouble, never meant to cause you any pain. Purple rain, purple rain. Some lovely big rich chords around G minor. So G minor is easy, it's just 21. And this is a shape where you can slide that second string around. In fact, Seth does that a lot with something like... And we do that on the preacher a lot, you know. So there's a lovely G minor. And it stands to reason, if you're in G minor, some of those other modal shapes take on that characteristic. So, Madam, I will give you the keys of Canterbury. And if you want to put some chords around G minor, what about this? My favourite, one of my favourites apart from B minor, is B flat. Do you remember that B minor there? Slide it down 1 fret. There you go. So you're now on 43, 33, 21. Remember that? Who's gonna tell you things aren't so great? I'm just taking off 21, making it open. You can't go on, sorry, you can't go on thinking nothing's wrong. Who's gonna drive you home tonight? So there's your B flat, hammering on that 21. There's your G minor. There's a C, remember? And if you want to put some chords around B flat, there's this one, which is really 31, 21 and 1, 1. And that'll be a D sharp. And that goes nicely with that F. Do you remember that F shape I showed you? Which was really that A taken down. So here is B flat. Guess what you've got? It's country life. Working in the rain, B flat, D sharp, B flat, 9, F. Lost teeth and little chain so wide, doesn't now drink and fight. Sons of the grass, hearts of cars. C, talks of travel, never gets far. Oh, so there you are, there's some chords around G minor for you. G minor, D flat, F, C. And here's another little lovely thing you can do on G minor. You can move these shapes around on the 1 and the 2 string. So what I've got here, this is the clump. The Santa Maria sailed out of the sun. What I've got is 2, 9 and 1, 8. So you can slide that up 2 frets. And if you slide it down 1 fret, you just have to go to, you just have to shorten the gap between the 2. So you're going to from 2, 9 to 2, 8, and you're going from 1, 8 to 1, 7. Can you see there's 2 frets apart, and then I'm just going, and you can move that again down. So, and you can slide that up with 2 frets separation. So the Santa Maria sailed out of the sun. Warrior priests with crosses and guns. On 1,000 tides in 1,000,000 They came carrying sickness, cattle and slaves. Columbus didn't find America. It wasn't lost, it was always there. I won't celebrate 500 years, plundering wealth and scattering tears. Remember this? That D flat. So I can't really think of anything else I can show you on the cello mandolin or the Mandocello for now. It's a long lesson. Follow the link below if you want to contribute anything. I know this is very much a speciality for less players, but I've enjoyed doing this, and I may do something on the tenor guitar, and I may do something on my next one is going to be the big chunky power chords on the guitar. So I think my favourite song to play on it, and I think the one that makes it come alive the most, is that Juliet. The dice was loaded from the start, and I bet that you exploded in my heart. There's a place for us. You know the movie song, when you don't realize it was just that the time was wrong. And what I like to do at the end is you and me, babe, how about it? And I can try and get that little echo. Catch up next time. Hi everyone, welcome to the Tenor Guitar Show. What I'm going to do is first of all talk about the tenor guitar and show you some shapes and chords, and then the second half will be 5 or 6 songs, maybe a few more, a concert on the tenor guitar, as if it was the only instrument I had that night. Now that means sonically it will be a bit samey, and it isn't something I would do naturally live, but I'm going to play things like The Preacher, probably Dock of the Bay, Long Way Home, and Boys of Summer, which is always a very popular one on the tenor guitar. Now this particular instrument was made by David Oddy, and I tune it C, G, D, G. Now there's lots of different tunings for a tenor guitar. Originally I think people used like the top 4 strings of a guitar, and this may or may not be true, but I was told that the tenor guitar was developed by jazz band guitar players who really liked the attack of the tenor banjo, the 4-string banjo, but they didn't want to be seen with a banjo. That may or may not be true. But for me, the breakthrough with my relationship with this instrument was touring with Seth Lakeman in about 2005, Seth and Jenna Witz, and I watched Seth play that amazing rhythmic technique that he's got. And the way that Seth plays the instrument, it's full of riffs and little hook lines. For example, I always tease him, it's a bit like, it's almost heavy folk metal, isn't it? But he's got a very, very light pick, and he plays almost like a funky soul guitar player. It's an amazing sense of attack and rhythm. But I wanted to use the instrument in a different way. And Seth uses lots of tunings. I think he changes tunings in between songs. But I developed this tuning C, G, D, G. And what we have here now, this is a light gauge A string tuned up A, B, C. So it's quite tight. So this G string is a D, a light gauge D string tuned up D, E, F, G. So again, it's quite tightly strung. And the C, G, D, this D is A, B, C. It's a light gauge A string, a light gauge B string, a second string. So you've got B, C, D, that's tuned up tight. And finally that top G is an E string tuned up E, F, G. So it's quite quite tightly strung, and it's not hard to fret, but there's not a lot of fret buzz because it's quite tight. And I wanted to play the same chord shapes that I play on the cello mandolin. So we have fifth, fifth, fourth. So they're the same here. On the 7th fret, that's the same. On the 7th fret, on the 3rd string, like that. And on the 5th string, for the top 2. So it's 4th, 4th, sorry, 5th, 5th, 4th. And if I was a tunes player, probably I would tune that top E, top D up to E. So I'd have more of a 5th, 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 more like a violin or mandolin tuning. So, but it opens up the same shapes, as I said, but they are the same shapes but different chords. For example, that's an E minor on the tenor guitar. So it's G, 8. So if you imagine that C, D, E, moving up the fret. So that was an E minor chord, whereas the same shape on the cello mandolin is. But it does sound like a different instrument. It's a completely different sonic landscape, isn't it? If I play the same sequence, listen. Now I play the same thing on the tenor guitar. You've got. It's almost like the right hand of a piano. You're just accompanying the chords. And what I love about it, it gives so much space for the voice. So that's one particular chord shape, you know. So if that's a C, then my resting chord here will be a G. That will be a chord that I will sort of like base a lot of songs around. On the cello mandolin, that will be a D. So I'm basically doing exactly the same thing, but it does sound like a different instrument. And as regards little riffs, if you take something like... That's very Lakeman-esque, that particular technique of putting the little melodies inside the chords like that. So I wouldn't probably do that on the cello mandolin, but it's sweet. Another lovely resting chord is C minor. Now that would be G minor shapes on the cello mandolin, but another shape I might use is if this is a C, obviously this is a D. That's just like an A to a, sorry, a D to a C. And what happens, the same shapes on the different instruments set up a different landscape for you to throw around lyrics and words. And the voice occupies a different space. For example, if I was just ad-libbing, now that's quite a good range for my voice. If I was to do that on the cello mandolin, you can hear it's a bit of a strain. It would either be too low or too high. So I can, if you like, begin a chord on one instrument and take it over to the other just to finish it off. So what else about this instrument? I don't tend to play, there's only one tune. I might do this in the concert bit. That's the only out and out tune that I play on the tenor guitar, the one that I do when Cormac sort of drives it along. So the other thing I do on this guitar, which I haven't really seen other tenor guitar players utilize, is I finger pick it. Home to a Million Thoughts. I think that's quite sweet. Most people tend to play sort of percussive chords, but can you hear the lovely range it gives for the voice? There's not a lot of bottom end in there, so, and also Nobody on the road, nobody on the beach. I'll do that in the concert set as well. And also it makes a very nice instrument for even chords. Very even, it's almost like country chords. Sometimes when we're recording a song, for example, My True Love, I play a very, very even stroke. I mean, this is obviously a C. Now, can you hear that little riff in the chords there? Dee, 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 dee. Oh, to see how my true love comes smiling. And on a few recordings, I'll just play very even, unaccented chords. And if Cormac was adding percussion, he might just add like a shaker, which I think on My True Love, I think he just plays the bowron, and he's just playing it very, very lightly with brushes. And the two sounds of me playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in a very even way mix very, very well with the percussion, either a shaker or the bowron or the brushes. So it works as an even accompanying instrument. It works as a chording instrument. It works in a percussive way, and it's very much my guitar of choice, my instrument of choice. If I'm going on holiday, it's easy to pack, and to sit and noodle is very sweet, you know. It feels like a veranda look out at the sea, sort of gently strum away instrument. Remember those days. So basically that's all I can say about the tenor guitar. I'll take a break after this particular bit, and when I come back I shall play you some songs on the tenor guitar. See you in a bit. So my first tenor song is called The Long Way Home. I'm glad that you would meet me in this lonely side of town, where we once fell completely until our love was found. Now in your face I can read so much, so many lives you have known. We lost our nerve when we lost touch, and I took the long way home. I took the long way home. No, I don't mean to rake over embers, but you never told me why. The first I knew it was over was the last time we said goodbye. I've been east to west, I've been north to south, so many worlds I have known. I've lived cap in hand and hand to mouth, as I took the long way home. I took the long way home. The long way. And now I want no vows, let's make no plans, but no more nights alone. We are face to face, come on, take my hand. We took the long way home. We took the long way home. The next song I want to do is, I think it's the first Bob Dylan song I ever learned. When I heard the Freewheeling Bob Dylan album, I was 14, and although I could play a few chords, it's changed everything really. Being slightly isolated, solitary in Exmouth, and there was this amazing persona, you know, whispering in your ear, you know, "Hey kid, you gotta leave Exmouth, man, you know, get on a train." I said, "Bob, the train stops at Exeter, you gotta get off." "That ain't what I'm saying, baby, you know, gotta get out of town." So even now, when I'm facing 2 miles to the south now, that's the other side of the estuary, and the train from Penzance goes along, you can hear it rattling up to London. Whether it was called a milk train or not, I have no idea, but that was the sound of escape. I thought The Girl from the North Country was about Biddeford. So you got to get this right with the old angle on these things, because look at that, it's popped out. If you don't get the angle right, you're sort of chasing it around and like a donkey with a carrot. You know, if you get it wrong, you can be sort of like this, you know, trying to reach it. So I'll play you Don't Think Twice, It's Alright. Fingerstyle on the tenor guitar. Goes like this. Well, it ain't no use in turning out your light, babe. I'll start again. Right. Well, it ain't no use to sit and wonder why, babe, if you don't know by now. Well, it ain't no use to sit and wonder why, baby, it'll never do somehow. When your rooster crows at the break of dawn, look out your window and I'll be gone. You're the reason I'm traveling on, but don't think twice, it's alright. It ain't no use in turning on your light, babe, the light I never knowed. Well, it ain't no use in turning on your light, babe, I'm on the dark side of the road. And I wish there was something you could do or say, make me wanna change my mind and stay. We never did too much talking anyway. Don't think twice, it's alright. And it ain't no use in calling out my name, God, like you've never done before. Ain't no use in calling out my name, girl, I don't hear you anymore. Well, I'm thinking and I'm wondering, walking down the road, I once loved a woman, a child I am told. I gave her my heart, but she wanted my soul. Don't think twice, it's alright. Walking down that long, lonesome road, girl, where I'm bound, I can't tell. But goodbye is too good a word, babe, so I'll just say farewell. I ain't saying you treated me unkind. You could have done better work, I don't mind. Just kinda wasted my precious time. Don't think twice, it's alright. Don't think twice, it's alright. The harmonica is all about attitude, really. I mean, the way I play it, you just suck and blow and move your head to and fro, and it seems to sort of work. So that's a fingerstyle song on the tenor guitar. I'll play you a song I wrote about Sidmouth Festival called Walk With Me When the Sun Goes Down. What can I say about Sidmouth? I shall miss it so much this year. But this is based upon a few little licks on there. Just let me remind myself of the phrase. Yeah, it's based upon that little phrase I had on the guitar. Funny thing about this, the BBC playlisted this song, and they didn't playlist Roots or AIG or Country Life because they said it contained too many issues. And this one specifically says it's not about Roots and Country Life and greedy bankers. So it says it's not about all the things that the other songs were all about. So they playlisted this one, which is quite strange, really. So if I can remember it. I didn't want to make you think, didn't want to make you frown. But in the heart of a quiet little English town, walk with me when the sun goes down. Don't need another song about greedy bankers. I don't need a song about country life. Don't need another song about the rural poor. Another song about my life. Don't need a song about street life heroes. Another song about a well-bred clown. But in the heart of a quiet little English town, walk with me when the sun goes down. Walk with me when the sun goes down. I didn't want to make you think, didn't want to make you frown. But in the heart of a quiet little English town, walk with me when the sun goes down. In the heart of a quiet little English town, walk with me when the sun goes down. Originally I wrote The Preacher for the Cuatro, and I did it in sort of like a banjo style. But lately, again, this is quite Seth-like, I've been playing it on the tenor guitar. I really need to be warmed up to sing this one well, but I'll sing you the song. It's quite nice because obviously just 20 miles to the east of Sidmouth is Portland, where this song is located. A song about a preacher who prays for something unfortunate to befall a quarryman, so because he's in love with the quarryman's wife, you know, he's been watching them from a distance, and so I think it works quite well on the tenor guitar. As I say, this is that lovely C minor, and it's got a few little riffs in it. So this is The Preacher. I am the preacher on the island, and I live on my own. I try and bring some comfort to a world of sea and stone. There are no trees on the island, there's nowhere to shelter or hide. Men tear rock from the quarry, will take their chances on the tide. I fell in love with the wife of the man who lays the fuse. When I heard the thunder from the earth, I had to choose between falling and my cold calling. So cold. I used to walk beside the water, their voices blown in the wind, and I would watch from a distance, and I dreamed that I was him. And he found work on the mainland, oh how I prayed something would tear them apart and make her stay. Oh, I was falling, cold calling into the cold. So cold. Next day they called me to the quarries. There was something badly wrong. A man lay crushed by falling rock, and his life was almost gone. I knew his face in the darkness, I didn't need to ask the name. All my prayers were answered, and I was the one to blame. I closed his eyes and looked up, she was running through the rain. She took him in her arms and begged the Lord to give him life again. And if I should live all the 7 ages of man, these 7 tides will never wash all the blood from my hands. All this blood. I am the preacher on the island, and I live all alone. I try and find some comfort in my world of sea and stone. Like the chapels on the island, my heart is dark and overgrown. I used to pray, but now I leave my Maker well alone. On my island, on my island, lost love. Oh, that's quite a tough one to sing. That's The Preacher, and I'm getting low of water. Maybe there'll be a wine delivery soon. There's only one out and out tune. I'll probably cock this up. I'll play a little bit of it on. Let me get in tune. It's a little jig I played with Cormac on the last tour. If I can remember, there's some little triplets that are quite hard to get in. So if I feel like I'm cocking it up, I'll start. Most of them. So yeah, that was quite tough getting those little triplets in. You hear the proper, you know, Damien and Derry Farrell and all these all these people playing. I don't know how they do it. Amazing technique. So I don't try and compete with them, and maybe they don't sing The Boys of Summer. So this is possibly, I'll finish with this one, this is possibly the most popular song that I do on the tenor guitar. There's that riff in The Boys of Summer. And you can keep repeating it as the chords change, and at the end this is one of my favourite end of summer love songs, and thanks for tuning in to the Tenor Guitar Show. I'll finish up with The Boys of Summer, and follow the PayPal link, honesty box, as you leave the room, and I hope you're all staying safe and well. Boys of Summer. Nobody on the road, nobody on the beach. I feel it in the air, the summer's out of reach. Empty lake, empty street, the sun goes down alone. I'm driving by your house, though I know you're not home. And I can see you, brown skin shining in the sun. Got the top pulled down in the rain. my love for you will still be strong after the boys of summer have gone. Never will forget those nights, wonder if it was a dream. Remember how you made me crazy, remember how I made you scream. Now I don't understand what happened to our love, but I'm gonna get you back, gonna show you what I'm made of. Now I can see you, brown skin shining in the sun. I see you walking real slow and smiling at everyone. Now I can tell you my love for you will still be strong after the boys of summer have gone. Out on the road today, I saw a dead-head sticker on a Cadillac. Little voice inside my head said, don't look back, you can never look back. For I knew what love was, what did I know? Those days are gone forever, I should just let them go. But I can see you, brown skin shining in the sun. Got the top pulled down and the radio on, baby. Well, I can tell you my love for you will still be strong after the boys of summer have gone. Well, I can see you, brown skin shining in the sun. You got your hair swept back and those wayfarers on. I can tell you my love for you will still be strong after the boys of summer have after the boys of summer have gone. Let's catch up soon. Hello, welcome to the Cuatro Show. This is going out on Monday night at 8 o'clock. I shall also be doing a little concert on Wednesday at 8 and on Friday at 8. That's going to be probably my scheduled performance spots for the week. As ever, there's a little PayPal link if you're feeling generous or if you've enjoyed it. Again, I have to thank people for their generosity. I've been actually quite touched. I had to ask one person if they'd put the decimal point in the wrong place, and they had. No, they hadn't, which is lovely. This is such a sweet little instrument. We feature it on lots of songs. Phil plays it obviously on Santiago. I now play it on the Moody version of Country Life. And it has some particular qualities, but a bit of background first of all. Cheers, by the way. I know it's bad taste, but we had them in the fridge. In the early 90s, a wonderful guy called Roger Watson, who was part of the Derbyshire folk mafia. I first met Roger when he was comparing the beach store at Sidmouth Folk Festival in a very no-nonsense way. And I think he played in Muckram Wakes. He did play in Muckram Wakes as well. But Roger, in the early 90s, was the director of an organisation called Traditional Arts Projects, or TAPS, in Bracknell at South Hill Park. And he put me and Phil and a wonderful musician called Dave Townsend, English traditional musician, together with 3 Chilean exiles who had a band called Keyman 2. And this was Mauricio Venegas, Vladimir Vega and Sergio Avila. And he said, I want you guys just to get together, bring your instruments, and to see if you can find common ground. And if you can, we can probably find some funding to do an album and a tour. And we met these guys, and of course at first it was slightly awkward, but then when we started playing, the common language of music really sort of lit up the room. And they spoke reasonable English, some of them, Mauricio in particular, and Vladdy spoke a bit better than Sergio, but we got on. We got on like a house on fire. They were the same age as us, but their journey had been involved imprisonment and exile and very, very bad treatment at the hands of the Pinochet government. They were activists, they were also musicians, and that particular journey got them into such trouble and led to their exile. But at that time, the scene was awash with bands, South American bands. There was also Rumiata, there was so many other Cajun bands, the Flat Valaces, the Barely Works, La Cucina I particularly liked, and the scene is very, very different now. But Roger had some bands to choose from, but I think he knew Mauricio quite well. They'd collaborated before. So we got together and they brought the panpipes and the charangos and the llama's claws percussion and a big bass drum and various other things. But this was the instrument that Phil and I immediately fell in love with. The Cuatro. I believe it's the national instrument of Venezuela. I think Puerto Rico. And the way that the guys would play it is a very percussive, rhythmic way, sort of. So you can imagine playing a jig. It sort of gave rhythm to some traditional English and British tunes. So the collaboration worked. They were all singers, and so we harmonized very well. And we toured. We made an album called, the band became known as Alianza, and we made, which I think is quite a classic album, a collaborative album. It led to lots of songs such as Man of War and Santiago, of course, and it led to an enduring love affair with this instrument. So we borrowed, I think, Mauricio's Cuatro, and we took it to the wonderful David Oddy. Oh, he bloody brought me there, and bloody bastard, play that damn thing. I suppose I better make one. And he fashioned one of these instruments, and his son Nick is still making Cuatros to this day. Now, it has similar properties to a ukulele, in the sense it has a re-entrant string. But the Cuatro's re-entrant string is this bottom one, the lower one. Whereas a ukulele will go bam, 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 bam. It starts off with a high string and then drops. This starts with a down and then it drops. So rather than high, low, low, up, this goes low, 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 and then down again. So it has a similar relationship amongst the strings. You tune them like you would the top 4 strings of a guitar. So if you imagine that this 4th string is the 4th string of a guitar, on the 5th fret it's the same. Then if you imagine that's the 3rd string of a guitar, on the 4th fret it's the same. Then if you imagine that's the 2nd string of a guitar, on the 5th fret it's the same note, but it's an octave below. So a classic ukulele tuning would be I think C, G, E, A. But this tuning is A, D, F sharp, B. That's A, D, F sharp, B. But the same chord shapes apply to both. In other words, if I was to play what is a D shape, that's a D shape on the top string of a guitar, but it's not a D chord, it's a D, E, F, G, A. You have to think 4 letters ahead. If I was to play a G, that's a G, A, B, C, D. That's a D. So you have to sort of rethink the names of chords, but the shapes are the same. But that re-entrant string gives that lovely plaintive quality. This is just an E minor. It's an A minor shape, it's an E minor chord. Isn't that sweet? And that's just a piece of cross picking. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. I love the sound of it. And the other thing that I learnt to do was to play it in a rhythmic way, but not like the guys would play. They would go they would play by the velocity, and they would build up their nails. Vladdy used to build up his nails with super glue and tissue paper. And when he used to play that sustained, he would do it like that, and bits of nail would be flying off. So I learnt to do that by just doing this shape, finger down, thumb down, finger up. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Finger down, finger down, thumb down, finger up. Can you see? Down, down, thumb up, down, thumb up, down, thumb up. And then you can throw it in as like a triplet. Or you can sustain it. Down, thumb up, down, thumb up. So as I say, they would do the same thing, but I do it like that. Now the other thing I found on the Cuatro, much to I got a pretty girl down the road. Hi Lenny. You could make it sound like a sort of banjo. Can you imagine the look of pain on a Chilean exile's face when Mauricio came into the room and I was playing Yankee music? Yeah, man, for me, don't play Yankee music on my Cuatro, please, don't do it. So I promised I wouldn't. So all I'm doing here is, if you imagine that's an E minor shape, I'm hammering on and pulling off. It's a very sort of hammer on. Can you see? Hammer down, up, down. Hammer down, up, down. And as you speed it, there's the preacher for you. And even the banjo effect is the pull-offs that are happening on. So all I'm playing here is 1-3 and 2-3 and hammering on 4-3. I've rambled in England, I've rambled in Spain, oh the cuckoo. There's that lovely sort of effect, doesn't it? But it's not, say, it's not a banjo, but it has that sort of, you can play along to those guys and it has a sort of authenticity. So that's the sort of techniques I do on the Cuatro, and it's that string out of sequence. That I think gives it that lovely effect, like the little riff on Country Life. Thumb, 1, 2, 3. Thumb 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, thumb 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So just try it out. Now, if you want to modify a ukulele to do this sort of thing, this first string here is a third string, classical third string. The second string is a first, that's a second, the third string is a second, and the fourth string is another third. So it goes 3, 1, 2, 3. And that tuning again is A, D, S sharp, B. Good luck, everyone. Now I'm going to stop. Have another sip of, I'm not going to name the lager. And I'll play you some songs when I come back. So my first Cuatro song is called Tall Ship Story. I don't remember when I first saw this film. It was an obscure Orson Welles film about a merchant in some East India port, Shanghai or maybe in Indonesia. I'm not sure the location, but he was a dissolute and very sort of like corrupt libertine, an old merchant who had a young, beautiful wife. And he was determined to make like a folk tale, like a, what do you call them, an urban myth, a maritime myth, true for at least one sailor. And the story is that the merchant pays a young man to have the first wedded night with the beautiful young bride. And then forever he's going to tell his tales that I was the one in that story. And they go, oh yeah, like hell, you know. So that was the basic idea of the song. I'm not quite sure how much this song follows that original narrative, but that was the basic idea. An urban myth, whatever a maritime myth is, comes true for one sailor. Tall Ship Story. And so you find me drinking in the harbour. If you have an hour till you set sail, join an old sea dog, sit here in the corner, and gather round now while I tell my tale. We were homeward bound from the far East Indies, and filling up the hold in old Shanghai, when a horse and a carriage, they came near us. An old man and a young woman drew alongside. There are stories told about the wind and the rock, haunted ships that never made dock, 1,000 tales of the deep and the stormy brine, and this one's mine. She was the sweetest sight, the fairest beauty. I wiped my brow, I leapt ashore. He called me close and softly whispered, young man, for just one night she's yours. My shipmates stretched their eyes in wonder as I climbed in the carriage and we rode away. We passed that night in sweetest rapture, and I didn't return till the break of day. There are stories told of the wind and rock, haunted ships that never made dock, 1,000 tales of the deep and the stormy brine, and this one's mine. Believe me. Hey! We stood by the sea as the dawn was breaking. There was sadness in the old man's grey eyes. He took my arm and said, now leave us and go tell the whole world about old Shanghai. On every ship a loudmouth sailor says it happened to him what happened to you, but for one young man in all these oceans, well, I would have made the fiction true, but you'll be known as a liar by all your crew. Stories told of the wind and rock, of haunted ships that never made dock, 1,000 tales of the deep and the stormy brine, and this one's mine. This one's mine. Believe me. Hey. Oh, I haven't played that for years. Tall Ship Story. Now here's something I do on the Quattro, and I'm just going to turn on this little echo down here. A bit faster. Using a dedicated echo. Can you hear the echo go 1, 2, 3? So the echo is threes against one, so it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So I'm playing in 4/4. But the echo is threes. 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm doing that frailing banjo technique I spoke about earlier. So this is a version, a reworking of Reynardine, you know, the classic tale of the man, the predator who takes the form of a fox, you know. And I suppose these stories were ways of warning young people not to stray out of the confines of the village, because who knows was living out in the woods, what sort of people were out there beyond the law. And it does say in the song that he's wanted by the law, sought by the judge's men. And there's a seduction scene, and it's a bit like one of those Company of Wolves, Angela, always forget her name. Those looking beneath the folk story as to what the subtext is. Angela Carter, you know, Red Riding Hood. You know, the victims in all these songs are always girls, I suppose, at 16, 17 years old, wandering through the woods, you know, like a Hammer horror film. And the guy, he takes the form of a fox, very charismatic. So I suppose it's just a subtext for someone who is a predator. And so this is Reynardine. This is my tune to an old, I think, Anglo-Irish folk song. One evening as I rambled among the springing time, I overheard a young woman converse with Reynardine. Her hair was black, her eyes were blue, her lips were ruby wine, and he smiled as he looked upon them. Did that sly bold Reynardine? She said, young man, be civil, my company forsake, for to my own opinion, I fear you are some rake. Oh no, I am no rake, he cries, I was raised in the wind and rain, but I'm searching for concealment, or from the judge's men. Her rosy cheeks, her ruby lips, they lost their former died, and she fell into his arms, all on that mountainside. They had not kissed but once or twice, when she came to again, and so modestly she asked him, "Pray tell to me your name." Rain and time. He said, "If by chance you look for me, by chance you'll not me find, probably in my green castle, inquire for any time." Day and night she followed him, his teeth so white did shine, and he led her into the mountains, did that slide. Bold rain and time. Deep into the mountains with rain and time. Rain and time. Amazing story. Excuse me while I have a wet the whistle. I've used this a little tune I played with Cormac. I started off with a jig on the tenor guitar. I think I played it on the tenor guitar show, and I went into a little tune, and he accompanied it on the baron. Except he would really keep pushing the speed. Nearly. This bit was a bit easier. He'd repeat. Remember this bit? Hey! Usually people were clapping by now. That was always an ordeal every night. I needed to have warmed up a bit more on that one, but you get the picture. So what else have I played on the Cuatro? Oh, I know. With Tom and Martin. this word. This kid sitting pretty on a two-wheeled stallion. It's so tempting, like got a beat on you. Ain't no use setting off with a bad companion. Ain't no one get the better of you, no. And it's never too late. Needing my radio, trucking on through the night. 3579 double wide line. Motorway sun come up on the morning light. Ain't no use to choose to listen to lies. Ain't no money on my town to right or wrong. Everyone knows that the moonlight's leading nowhere. It's gonna keep on driving over the road I'm on. And it's two, come on, there's never too late. Motorway sun coming up on the morning light. 3579 double wide line. Motorway sun coming up on the morning light. The same old motorway sun coming up on the morning light. The same old motorway sun coming up on the morning light. I used to love playing that with Tom and with Martin. Sorry, Tom, I didn't get all the words correct on that one, but you get the general feel of the Cuatro. So what else have I used it for lately? Oh yeah, a moodier version of Country Life. Now, what happens live now is Naomi sets the echo. Now, I think the amplifier I'm using here doesn't have... It's either too fast or too slow. So I'd have to play it. Or if I slow it down. I think I will. I think I'll finish up with a slow version of Country Life. Thank you for excuse me. Thank you for tuning in to Strum with Steve, Lick the Lockdown. This might be the 7th or 8th concert I've done. And keep tuning in, and lots of stuff to come in the week. So yeah, I will play this slightly slower. Because I think that's the mood we're all in, isn't it? So. Working in the rain, cutting up wood, didn't do my little brother much good. He lost 2 fingers in a chainsaw bite, and all he does now is drink and fight. He sells a bit of grass and he huts up cars, talks of travel, never gets far, loves his kids but left his wife. An everyday story of country life. Country life. And the red brick cottage where I was born is the empty shell of a holiday home. Most of the year there's no one there. The village is dead and they don't care. And now we live on the edge of town. We haven't been back since our pub closed down. One man's family pays the price for another man's vision of country life. But if you want cheap food, then here's the deal. It's family farms that are brought to heel by a hammer blow of size and scale. Was foot and mouth just the final nail in the coffin of this English dream? It lies out there on the village green, where agri-barons, cap in hand, strip our green and our land of meadow, woodland and hedgerow pond, and what remains they build upon. Silent lanes, empty hills, distant smoke from distant flames, picture postcard, the hills on fire, and cattle burn in funeral pyres. Out to graves, they look so sweet. We hate the blood, but we want the meat. So buy me a beer, I'll take my knife and cut you a slice of country life. Now I always mention the pubs we used to play in. Different context now, isn't it, really? Because it's not just the ones that are closed now, but the ones that have closed down over the last 20 or 30 years that I've been doing this, you know. The Tiger's Head, and the Star, and the Bird in Hand, and the Eight Bells, and the Red Lion, and the King and Queen. They're all long gone. They've been gone for a while, and now so many others are dark. Let's hope they reopen soon. Country life, I'm singing, oh. Working in the rain, cutting up wood. Well, it didn't do my little brother much good. Stay safe, everyone. Tune in next time.